Good morning, Tawonga. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you, Papa?
I'm okay, and welcome to Hemaa Voices. It's
Thank you.
incredible. We're actually connecting this morning at 4 a.m. But hey, we have to do what we have to do to get the
So,
show going, right?
so, my bad, my bad.
Nah, it's good. It just shows your resilience. I mean, and having to juggle the requirements of life and still being a sister to your other sisters. So we thank you
Thank,
for that.
thank you.
So
And thank you for accommodating me.
to put things in perspective, Madam Tawonga, who is Tawonga?
Who's Tawonga? Tawonga. Okay, my name means we are thankful, and I'm a grateful person. A therapist, um, a trauma therapist. I would love to borrow your terms. I think I learned them from you the last time we had an interview. I also relate to being an optimistizer.
Optimistizer. Okay.
Yeah, I I I think I am by nature. I'm also an optimizer. I also love to network with people and bring people together. I'm a mom, I'm a partner, and I'm a mompreneur. I hope that
Interesting.
yeah, I hope that captures what I am for now. But I guess I'm like an onion, many layers.
Interesting. And what is your last name?
My last name is hyphenated. Gondwe
Okay.
Nkosi.
Gondwe and Gossi?
Nkosi.
Ukosi. Interesting. We always want to be very particular about displaying the diversity of Mehima and the amazing ladies that we have from the different countries in Africa. What does it feel like to be a global citizen? I understand you were born somewhere, stayed somewhere, grew somewhere.
Interesting that you asked me that because growing up, I've always felt that's what I wanted to call myself. Like if somebody asked me where I was from, I would say I'm a global citizen because I was born in Malawi. My mother is Zambian. No, I was born in Zambia. My mother is Zambian, and then moved to Malawi in my early years. I grew up in Malawi, but most part of my childhood, I grew up around people from different nationalities because my parents were missionaries. Well, they still are more active then than now. So we always had guests from different nationalities in our home who didn't feel like guests, they felt like family. So I feel like I have aunties and uncles all over the world. I shouldn't say I feel like I do have aunties and uncles all over the world. So I was exposed to different nationalities from a young age. I also went to a school it was an international school that had people from different nations. So I think it led to a time where I kind of questioned my identity. Who was I? Because I didn't feel like I really fit into the Malawi context. And I didn't really fit into the Zambian context, but I had a mix of all, and I could relate to a whole lot of people. So, how does it feel to be a global citizen? It feels great. Right now, I feel like I have begun to own my skin and my identity. In that as well, a few years ago, I learned about the term highly sensitive person or empath, more like. And that in itself has been so liberating because I've been able to find people who are just like me. So it explained further my feeling of feeling different, not fitting in anywhere from the places that I was born or came from. I then met a community of people that felt and thought and experienced life like I did. And interestingly, there are people from all over the world. Like I didn't find any Malawian at that point. I did not find Africans on the group that I was first introduced to before. So from there, I kind of felt a desire to connect with other Africans and at the time, Malawians especially who could identify themselves as empaths. So I started on a journey to discover that. Let me stop there. Atom.
Interesting. It's always great to meet your fellow empath. That's definitely, you sound like the true definition of a mihima because, feeling out, feeling for other people, understanding what they're going through, walking in their shoes, appreciating the diversity, and being able to relate with others. I felt very much like an outsider myself as a Toastmaster. I remember my icebreaker was titled The Outsider. And so I can totally relate. Being
Wow.
born in Nigeria, moving to Ghana, not fitting in, moving to the US, not fitting in, Korea, and so forth and so on. So, what is life like juggling being a mompreneur? You did mention you're a mompreneur. What does it entail? What is your typical mompreneur life like?
So again, I had not really lived outside of Malawi. I born and raised in Malawi, traveled to Zambia on holidays, see my family. We did go around Swaziland, Zimbabwe, spend some time there. But, well, Malawi was my base until 2016. We moved to Togo, a place I had not really heard of. And at the time, I quit my job and moved to Togo. So I quit my job because I was joining my husband who had found a job in Togo. And it was a job, talking about my job, it was a job that I really loved. Was,
And when you say you quit your job, what was it? What were you doing?
that's what I was getting into. That I
Okay.
was a therapist. So the first, as
Okay.
I trained in counseling and psychotherapy. And then at the time, counseling and therapy as we know it now it wasn't really common in Malawi. So the only job I could get was being an HIV counselor and tester. So I worked in HIV counseling and testing for over 10 years, but I didn't really feel it captured being a therapist as I learned it and as I felt called to be, because it was just a very small aspect of my life calling. Because, well, I would digress a bit. I started out as I went to Bible school actually. So at one of my minors was radio broadcasting that I was doing pretty well at it, but I withdrew from that particular study because I strongly felt like that wasn't me and that wasn't what I wanted to do. I was very strong about it, and well, different family members at the time like didn't really understand it and were upset with me for withdrawing and like, why don't you just keep up with it and you will figure out what you want. I was like, no, it's a waste of time, money, and all that. So, anyways, fast forward, I landed or came across my dad actually introduced me to a program. He found this counseling program that had started. So we were among the first group, and actually I was the youngest. I quite kind of was okay, let's try this out. So when I went into the program, started the school, I immediately felt I could relate, and I felt like this was my calling, and I'm like, finally, I find something that I can relate to and I felt at home in. So fast forward, I'm in the HIV counseling, but I'm just like, this is not really it. Anyhow, I then found my job, the job that I had before coming to Togo. It was also in the field of HIV, but was wider because I was what they call a psychosocial counselor, because I was working with, it's a children's hospital, working with children who had been born, mostly born with the virus or had tested HIV positive as young children and were growing up with the virus. So at different levels, we were offering psychosocial support. So for me, that was a broader aspect, not just counseling and testing, but I was doing more of counseling work with different aspects. and then also working with families. And it was great. I loved what I was doing finally. But I was 1 year into the job and then Togo came. I was excited about coming to West Africa because I knew about Ghana and I always thought I wanted to come to Ghana. I knew about Nigeria, but I somehow thought, okay, one day, probably Ghana. Then when I learned that Togo was close to Ghana, I was like, oh, cool, West Africa. Then I was torn between staying back, maintaining this dream job finally, and seeing my career progressing from there, and then joining the family, coming to Togo to experience life in West Africa. Anyhow, came to West Africa, quit my job, and it was it was a jungle, you know. Excited to move, new beginnings. I'm adventurous as a person. I mean, naturally, I am adventurous. But it became hard because, first of all, it's a French speaking country, and I come from an English speaking country, so I had to grapple a lot of changes and stuff. Anyways, I would say, in summary, it's been growth producing experience because it's in my time here that I've learned about being an empath, grown, become comfortable about calling myself that. Then I have fallen in love with the textiles in West Africa, and I've zoned into my heritage, so to say. My granddad on my father's side used to be a designer and a tailor back in the day, and I never would have identified myself as that. But coming here, I unearthed talents that I have in relation to the clothing industry, and I've been exploring and learning, finally to the point that I'm learning how to sew and make stuff, design stuff, which I'm really excited about. That's really my happy place. Another aspect of me that has also developed here is thrifting. I love clothes. So thrifting has really I love doing it. So my days are either designing clothes that you make with fabric, or I am upcycling. I got introduced to upcycling, or I'm thrifting, and just basically being a creative. I'm also vlogging. I started to vlog. I joined Toastmasters as well, which Papa has you actually are, I would say, I would refer you as my mentor. And I've learned a lot. I am growing in that process. It's not been like really easy, but I'm happy with where I am right now. So a typical day for me is not very predictable. I guess the predictable part is that I have committed myself to physical activity every day. Like every morning, I work out. I have a walk buddy, and then from there, I move on to the different aspects of my day, like being a mom, preparing my, right now it's my child for school, and then planning my day according to the different things that I have described here. So yeah, that's me. And always learning. I'm committed to learning, growing, introspection, self-awareness, and I'm a mental health enthusiast. So I always have content and stuff that I'm working. And I also offer online services, online and face-to-face counseling services. So yeah, that's what I can remember right now.
Very exciting, and I hope that very soon a lot of queens will be benefiting from your sessions and your mental health enthusiasm. In fact, I think at some point we'll probably need to have a subgroup or a club for that, because there are quite a number of people who like to relate and discuss issues around mental health. And I know there are some people too who have asked for help, and it'll be good to see that. There was a time that they were trying to set up a group called Hold Your Hand, and this
Mm,
was a number of queens who were dealing with some issues and wanted just a space where they could cry out together. So it'll be good to see this develop into something amazing. And I love the way you've just adapted to the world what the world is throwing at you,
Mm.
and have found your creative space, and are willing to learn and grow through it. So that's really interesting. How
Mhm.
long have you been at Mayhem, and what has been your story since you joined?
So I've been in Mayhem for 2 weeks now, 2 or 3 weeks. No, 2 weeks.
Okay.
My experience, I would say I already knew you, and well, first of all, I knew Asi. I know Asi. She's part of my community, my support community. She's my queen, she's my sister. She actually, so in a way, she has introduced me to Mehema because I think I've done some activities around it that she has shared stuff with me that we have
Mhm.
really bonded around and worked around.
Mhm.
And then I was introduced to you. And my experience, so I mean, joining the group has not been long, but I have known you members for some time. I mean, it's been really awesome. It's been great. I think the first time we talked about Mehema with you, I wasn't really ready. I think I was in some space working out a lot of stuff. Then recently, I was like, I think I am ready. I would love to because I am also very passionate about women and women issues, women stuff, and sisters pulling each other up. I believe in lifting each other up. I believe in sisterhood. Like I'm so big on it. I'm big on the power of community. So for me, I mean, coming to Mehema, it's just like, yeah, I was waiting for this. Then I was also, as part of joining Mehema, I was introduced to Mame Sewa. I hope I said her name right.
Yes, 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 mommy. Awesome lady.
So we like my first I took advantage of the complimentary call that we have finding the person who called me, finding me. I was intrigued by the name and the title. Then, through our conversation, it was supposed to be a 15-minute conversation, but it ended up being an hour or so. And it was,
Interesting.
yeah, I mean, like
When powerful queens meet.
it was it's just awesome. I'm just like, wow, okay. I've been I've been blown away, and I think I just feel like I belong, and I feel like I'm finally stepping into my purpose, and just so happy to be among queens and to be addressed as a queen, to be able to address other queens and lift other queens up. I'm like, yes, let's do this. I'm excited.
This is beautiful. How would you say you're impacting the world beyond the things that you've just already said?
Hmm. I'm impacting the world by, I believe in bringing change one step, like just by being me and walking towards authenticity, my authentic self, bringing my authentic self into the world. As I heal myself, I believe I heal others. I also believe in leaving a legacy as in, I believe in conscious parenting. So I'm doing my best as a parent to be a conscious parent as I reparent myself to also create a better world, starting with those that I have first impact with and in my community. I try to be as open as possible to offer myself and my services and all that I can to make the world a better place and connect with others that are doing the same.
Interesting. What else is there to know about you? Because we really want to hear your voice.
Well, what else is there to know? I think I've said pretty much the essence of
Mm,
who I am. I am
mm,
also, like I mentioned in the beginning, that I'm a trauma therapist. I
mm.
as I was studying, at some point, I had uh, I had initially started out in counseling and psychotherapy and added guidance and counseling. And I remember as I was doing the guidance and counseling field of study, I somehow felt a need to understand more about trauma therapy. And at the time, there wasn't really much information. But I think because it was an intention I set in my heart, I have found myself there now, you know, um, more information and knowledge has come. So I would add to say that I am an avid manifester. I believe in manifesting. I believe in the power of vision. I believe in visualization. And I'm
Mm,
excited to share it with others. And I'm excited to give practical examples and practical help on how it truly works. Like it truly works. And when you are ready, like the saying goes, when you're ready, the teacher appears. So
mm,
that's what I could add about myself that when you, I can't overstate it, like we really need to be committed to personal work, the inner work, doing the inner work. And as we do that, whatever we so desire, whatever place we want to be, whatever we want to do, we attract it as we get better, as we heal, as we become more authentic, our authentic selves. We walk into that place that we need to be. So that's how I would love to add.
lovely, lovely. And is there anything else you want to tell the world, or that's it?
Well, that there's enough love to go around. It's
Mm,
great to be loved, to be accepted, to be part of a community. And
mm,
let's keep loving on each other, in spite of the hate that may be going around, in spite of the pain that is evident every day. Let's be committed to love, be committed to
mm,
healing, be committed to healing ourselves and others, and be committed to spreading the love, spreading the love, making ourselves comfortable and making other people comfortable as well, and being lovable and loving others. That's
mm.
what I'd love to say.
As Black Eyed Peas will say, "Where is the love?" Thank you so much, Tawonga, for spending time with us on
You-
Mayhem Voices.
You're welcome.
And definitely, as people engage and watch it, if they have questions or comments, we'll be sure to direct them your way.
My pleasure. Sorry, I had one more thing to add.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
I would also love to connect with other women that are getting into the space where they're getting into perimenopause or menopause. Right now, that's the thing
Mm,
that's catching my attention. And I
mm,
really want to connect with others, talk about like being comfortable in growing older. Because like as you
mm,
see, I'm really hot and
mm,
that we experience hot flashes, rainfall,
mm,
and memory issues. So,
mm,
sometimes it can make you feel uncomfortable, like you want to cover it and you want to fit in and you want to just pretend it's not happening. But I'm learning, I would like to make others feel comfortable with it as I'm learning to be comfortable with the space and the phase that I'm in right now. And know that you're still lovable and you're still a great
mm.
person, even if you're not who you were before, you're not as young as you were, and you don't feel as great as you would love to. So, yeah, I wanted to add that in.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Queens, no matter how old you are, no matter where you're at, you're still loved. And it's great to connect and feel appreciated and realize that you're still amazing. I love it, Tawonga. That is I love what you ended with. I think
Thank
it's a great point to transition out. Thank you so
you.
much for your time and thank you for throwing this out there. And I really hope that other sisters and other queens will take advantage so that we can build a community around that. Awesome.
So, thank you for having me, and thank you for letting my voice out, for encouraging me to put my voice out there. And thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Thank you so much. Awesome.
Heidi.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.